Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our virtual career chats. I'm Angela Forbes, and it is a pleasure to welcome you. So, the summer holidays are commencing, and I hope that you do get time to enjoy it. That much needed break does allow you time just to think, and that clarity and space will allow you to refine your career plan, strategize your options, and re energize your trajectory forward. And we are here to help with that. So today we are bringing the profession of health and safety within the construction industry closer to you. And this will help you contemplate career options or rally information to take forward in your own transition. Now, we've got sensible heads and great advice today, and I'm delighted to extend a warm welcome to Chris Anderson from BBV and Ryan Rees at the VGC Group. So without further ado, I'll hand over to our first speaker, Chris. We'll switch our cameras off. We'll take questions at the end, but feel free to write any comments in the info box. And I'll hand over to you, Chris.
Welcome all. Chris Anderson, safety, working within the safety team here at Sublot 2A. The project itself, the HS2 project, encompasses many employers, if you like, many companies, many branches, many trends, many opportunities. I see it. I work for Balfour Beatty Vinci, or I work for Balfour Beatty within the joint venture of Balfour Beatty Vinci. The HS2 project, I appreciate, obviously, we've all seen it on the news. It's quite a large beast, biggest construction project in Europe, arguably probably the world. And like I say, excuse me, I'm on sublot 2A, of which there are numerous sort of like sublots within the Balfour Beatty Vinci. There's about 5 to 6, maybe even 7 sublots. And again, it's been on the news, the delays of which, to be fair, isn't necessarily a bad thing, because for me, looking forward, that just screams out future employment going on, longevity and things like that. I served in the RAF regiment for my sins, did the full 22. Getting into health and safety, I'll be honest, it was initially my plan B. My plan A, I never really found, because naturally plan B succumbed it and also turned into my plan A. It was only until I started doing my first course, which was the NEBOSH General Certificate, day 2, day 3 or something like that it was, I actually thought, you know what, this isn't bad at all. And it grew arms and legs from there on in. Picking what you want to do, extremely important and extremely difficult. I found it probably the most difficult thing, because probably similar-minded to everybody on this call, everybody watching, once we decide what career path, what path we're going to choose, from there you can identify hurdles, obstructions and things like that to be able to negotiate moving forward to get to that end state, whatever that may be. For me, that was the easiest part, and I had quite a lot of confidence in that, because like us all, you know, we're very confident in our abilities, and I think that's something which we should all lean on and be proud of, because employers love that. Okay, so once I identified that, initially my plan A, soon plan A, initially plan B, soon plan A, I went off and did my general certificate about 2 years prior to my end date of 22 years. I used one ELC to do my general certificate and my fire. I had to chuck in a few hundred quid, couple hundred quid to complete that. But again, the ELC massively helped me achieve that. I double tapped both courses probably within about 3 months of each other. So there was quite a lot of work involved. I used a very good company called Phoenix, very supportive, and the aftercare was really good. Mock papers, support. NEBOSH can be not awkward, but they can be finicky with the way that they answer the questions, pro words, which again we're all au fait with that sort of environment. So for me, that kind of helped me out to be able to adapt to that. There is cheaper alternatives out there where you can do e-learning or online learning or anything like that. But the simple way that I was thinking was it's a whole new process. It's a whole new PAM, a whole new TAM, okay, whatever system that we're working on. So basically, for me, it was that, like most people are probably on the call, one-to-one tutor, you know, I'm able to learn best from that. Soon after that, I did my fire, like I say, so knee wash and fire. I got them nipped. I got in touch with an old colleague of mine who was a health safety manager on a home building organisation in the Midlands. And I asked the question of getting some work experience coming alongside to obviously echo with my qualifications, of which obviously he was more than willing to allow me to come with him out on site and gain that experience, which, to be fair, soon turned into him talking me in, giving me that confidence, which again, naturally everyone struggles with because you're entering a whole new domain. He gave me the confidence to then push through and conduct and complete my level 6 diploma, of which COVID personally helped me out massively, because again, it allowed me that time off work, because obviously working from home or working from home or being off work, I was able to smash out the level 6 diploma within the year, and obviously echo that with experience as well out on site. Certainly then, when you do your diplomas, okay, in the health safety world, you do go up that rank structure. So the rank structure, if you like, within the health and safety world is Tech IOSH, Grad IOSH, and then you're going up to Chartered and Affiliation, which obviously is where the top brass work. Once I'd completed my my diploma, okay, I then looked at going into the construction world. Construction for me was always at the forefront of my mind, because there's a reward at the end. You know, whatever it is that you're building towards, it's all got to be planned. It's all got to be risk assessed. But again, very similar things to what we do in the military. It's like a phase operation, isn't it? Where the maximum isn't 9 phases, it's plenty more, and then from there you just gauge what it is, what phase that you're doing, identify the hazards, identify the risks encompassed in that legal requirement, and again ensure that the workforce are working safely. I was very fortunate to be invited through BuildForce to attend a job fair at RAF Cosford, which is where I worked, where Caroline, the other lady, the Iron Lady we call her because she doesn't take no for an answer. She's brilliant. Okay, the pair of them, they're fantastic, and I genuinely mean that, because they literally put you in front of people. I can remember walking into the job fair and, you know, lucky me, right time, right place, bumped into Caroline, and she's like, been looking for you, come with me. And she pointed me in the direction of the director who I work for now, Peter Rigby, his name is, and ultimately had a chat with him, sold myself, very confident, you know, told him what I knew, told him what I didn't know, okay, there's no harm in that, okay, and basically said, look, this is where I am, that's obviously ultimately where I need to be, what do I need to do to fill in the gaps? And he liked that, okay, he took my CV, lo and behold, 2 weeks later, on the phone to him, basically saying, look, can I come and do some work experience? Again, COVID helped me out massively. Line management helped me out massively as well to allow me to do that. But ultimately, you don't ask, you don't get. I put myself in a position where obviously vulnerability was up there, but you know what? It obviously pays off. Looking back now, yeah, obviously, like everybody else, it's a nervous time, unknowing. Okay, it's probably the hardest part, like I say. But once you do find your path, okay, it can pay off quite well, and the grass can definitely be greener on the other side. So yeah, I started off with my work experience, where I was averaging around 1 to 2 weeks a month here on site at my sublot, basically conducting the job. Because I'm a grad IOSH, I was able then to go forth and get my CSCS card, which for those of you that don't know, it's a 50-tick question, a bit like your theory driving test, but in safety out on sites. You get that. There's different colours to determine which level you are, if you like, which rank you are. I went off, got that, which enabled me to go off and obviously independently then go out and start reviewing sites and doing my own inspections. When we do the inspections, in a nutshell, it's to make sure, you know, whoever wrote that set of RAMs, which could be, God, it's not been that long. What do we used to call it? RASPs, EASPs, okay? Basically, those documents, this has been planned from someone of authority, someone that knows the safety aspects of X, Y, and Z. Are you conforming to those documents? And if not, it's my job to ensure that people know where they're going wrong and what they need to do to make it better, aka safer. And encompassing with that, because we're a tier 1 principal contractor, basically working directly for the client, HS2. Okay, I do review sets of RAMs, RASPs, EASPs. There's a lot more detail within there, okay, than what you would expect. But again, it's my job to ensure that the plan, the phase work that they are doing is being done safely and adequately to the task itself. Once I was independent, again, I basically sold myself. I'll be honest, 10 months I was doing it before my T-3 months, where I literally asked the question, look, I need to know whether there's a job at the end of this or not, because if there's not, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm going to take this experience and go left flank or right, and or if you're going to offer me a job or go for an interview, whatever, I just need to know, because I've got to take control of my situation. And everyone's situation is different, sure. And that following week, again, Peter Rigby, the director, along with my manager, pulled me into the office, and after a summary sort of like brief chat, just confirming what I knew, it felt like a bit of an interview, but it wasn't an interview. They pretty much offered me a job there and then. So ultimately, I'm in this job now, not even receiving an official interview as such over a period of 1 hour, but instead of that, over a 10-month period where I put myself out there, made myself look vulnerable, but I went with the confidence to be able to, well, this is where I am, that's where I need to be, that's what I need to learn, and it paid off. And yeah, I mean, it's been great. You know, I've never really looked back. Do I miss anything? Apart from the guys and the girls, or you know, the people in the office, the banter. I do miss that. But you know, in the construction world, okay, it's very similar. Okay, so to be honest, you build your own sort of like networks within your teams. I've got my own team. I basically run. I've got 6 sites within my sublot, and it's my job to build that relationship up with the team. So again, when I do approach them and come to them with improvements, okay, I've got that relationship with them where they just literally turn around and say, yeah, okay, no worries, we can do that, and there's no real pushback. And ultimately, that's part of the job. You know, it's having that relationship with them, and I think we've all got that, because the soft skills which we have learned over the a vast period of time and multitude of countries, I'm sure. Again, we're very good at managing people, and that does include subordinates, peers, and or management and or directors, and it's something which we should massively lean on with that. I think the questions are going to come at the end, Angela, but I think at the moment that's me.
Right. Okay. So where to start? Really, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. Hi, my name's Ryan Rees. I'm the HSQE manager for a company called VGC Group. So, and I cover HS2 and Civils North. So Chris is actually part of my client group for one of my major clients. So I popped in to see him yesterday afternoon for a swift brew and to plan a strategy, plan of attack. What VGC Group do, basically, yeah, VGC Group, we're a labour solutions, well, the facet of VGC Group that I work for is a labour solutions company. So we supply manpower to HS2, major civils, infrastructure, things like that across the country. So yeah, that's what I do. I go to large construction sites. Never thought I'd be doing that sort of thing when I left the armed forces, but it's fascinating, some of the work that's going on. Yeah, multi-billion pound work that's happening. So really interesting. With me, going into health and safety was pretty much my plan Z. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I left. So I was in the Royal Navy for 14 years, joined in January 99 and left in September 2012. But my plan when I left was to be a carpenter. So I used my enhanced learning credits. They knew how to invoice. So I was still in, they paid for the accommodation and food, and basically it was a £7.5 grand course that the enhanced learning credits paid for me to do my level 2 site carpentry. And visions of my ex-wife was Swedish, so we're going to move to Sweden and start a life as a chippy swanning around fixing wooden houses. But when I moved to Sweden, I bumped into an old friend of mine who I was on HMS Ark Royal with. He encouraged me to go and apply to a company called Alstom to go and work on trains there. So as a stopgap, I thought I'd go and do that for a while. Went to Alstom. I was interviewed by two people who were former Royal Air Force. So obviously, to be in the presence of a sailor, they were bowled over. Everyone's got to have heroes, haven't they, I suppose? Anyway, but yeah, so I was interviewed by these two ex-Air Force guys, and they knew what they were getting because I was a former petty officer, aircraft engineer. So they knew roughly what they were getting anyway. So they made room for me as head of a motor workshops working on trains. I applied what I'd learned in the armed forces to that, so I lean manned the workshop, got it working how I thought it should, and increased production from 8 motors a week to 24 motors a week, which stood me in good stead. It's what the guys were expecting from me when they employed me, and just from using military experience, having a can-do attitude, and having an approach that we learn during our time in the armed forces, it really put me in a good position. So then I got moved to the quality and delivery team at Alstom, accepting new trains from Germany, multi-million pound machines. But again, from being in the armed forces, we're used to dealing with those sort of machines and that sort of value. So it didn't really faze me. I did that job. Started helping with health and safety in that, which I found a bit of a doddle because it's logic. Yeah, so we did the health and safety. We're on the trains there as well. And then a former colleague from the Royal Navy contacted me to say he wanted me to come back to the UK and work for his company. So so that was that. I moved back to the UK, started working for a company called IMAC Limited, where I was a project manager and HSQE manager at the same time. So that was like a sideline. I didn't get on with the director there. He wasn't ex-military. He didn't like the fact that we were thick as thieves, and he pushed back quite a lot. So I decided to move on. And I wouldn't say lied on my CV. I embellished. I've probably bloated somewhat on my CV as to what I'd done since leaving the armed forces, and managed to get myself a job as the head of health and safety for a college group. I felt like I had nowhere else to go, so I took this job as head of health and safety for a college group. I didn't know at the time, but it was 11 sites, 8,500 people. And every environment you can imagine, from construction through to, because it was an agricultural college, they even had like a dairy herd, sheep farmers, we had flower arranging, and that was an absolute baptism of fire. However, with a can-do attitude and the resilience you get from a career in the armed forces, I applied that logic and that way of thinking. Yeah, I mean, how would you eat an elephant? You cut it into slices, wouldn't you, and do it one piece at a time. So yeah, everyone's bringing it anyway. So I decided that was what I do. I did that for 2 years and changed the culture of the college, reduced reported injuries by 20%, increased near miss reported by 70%, and left it at that. Then moved on. I was headhunted by a green waste recycling company because I had armed forces on my CV. So yeah, the guy recruited me because he wanted someone who could understand team building and the power of teamwork, of what you can gain from teamwork. So I went to go and work for a company called TWC, which is Tony Webby Composting. It was the biggest green waste recycling company in the UK at the time. And yeah, they had problems with their team. I identified it straight away, what was going wrong. People were clashing. You need to have some serious conversations, get them in the room and say, right, what's wrong with you? What's the issue? And yeah, so I sorted the team out. And then I had a bit of imposter syndrome, which you'll probably experience, where you feel like you've sold yourself for more than you're worth, but you actually sell yourself for less than you're worth generally, from what I've experienced. I would go into the managing director's office and say, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. And he'd say, well, what's the problem? I'd say, I don't know much about composting, health and safety. And he'd say, well, you've got Andrew working for you, and he's an expert, so ask him. And I'd say, I don't know about compliance. So he'd say, well, go and speak to Martin. He's an expert. He works for you, so go to him. And it wasn't until after I'd left that I'd realised what he'd done. And it was, if they employed a health and safety guy, when the health and safety guy fell over, I'd be doing his job. If I was a compliance guy, when the compliance guy stopped doing his job, I'd be doing his job. But because I couldn't fill in, I would make sure they do their job, which is essentially what we found in the armed forces as well. People get promoted into positions where they don't necessarily know what they're on about, but they know how to make sure the people do. Yeah, I was there for 2 years. They went pop when COVID kicked off, because one of our investors pulled out to something to the tune of £15 million. So that company went pop. Again, the rug was pulled from under my feet, didn't know where to turn. And luckily, VGC were looking for somebody. So that was that. I spoke to my current boss, a chap called Richard Wheeler. Yeah, really nice guy, really level-headed, absolute gentleman. Had a conversation with him about what I could offer. He liked the sound of me. So yeah, that was it. I rolled into VGC Group as a HSQE advisor. Got myself amongst BBV. Really hit the ground running. There's lots of ex-military in construction as well. So it seemed like every site I go to, there'd be somebody from the Royal Engineers. There'd be been around site. You'd see somebody with a specific tattoo, and you say, "Oh, is that ex-military?" And they say, "Oh, yeah, I was in the paras." If you've been to Afghanistan at any point, then we've chewed the same dirt. You know, it's things that you got in common, and you just find common ground. And I really felt like I sort of fitted in construction. Now, a day in the life for me, every day's different, as I'm sure Chris will agree. There are only 2 days the same. There's certain days every month that are the same, where I have a particular meeting on a certain sublot where I have to go to, or but yeah, days are all different. We've had people handling asbestos in one area, somebody nearly getting run over by a 60-ton ADT in another area. So you just got to be reactive. Obviously, that's not all on BBV. That's across my area of responsibility, which is anywhere north of London. But yeah, so because of the nature of the job, there's so many different facets. There isn't a typical day as a day in the life. I try and get in and do things in the morning. Some days I achieve everything I went out to achieve. Other days I'll have a to-do list, and I'll get home and my to-do list will be longer than it was when I started off. And I felt like a day of treading water. So why construction? I'd recommend construction to anybody leaving the armed forces, because it's the same demographic. It's the same sort of people. It's people that are resilient. It's a general sweeping statement, obviously, because you get biffs in every industry. But yeah, as a general sweeping statement, the people that are at the coalface in construction are resilient. They're hardworking. They're grafters. Yeah, call a spade a spade. If you've done something wrong, they'll tell you all about it, and there won't be any kind of holds barred. There will be no quarter given. They'll tell you exactly what you've done wrong. and what you've done well to that point as well. They're also, how can I describe it? The banter is very similar to being in the armed forces. We've got to encourage the guys to check their 6 o'clock nowadays, because there's a lot more hot topics, a lot more things you can get into a lot of trouble for. But the environment is genuinely respectful, very inclusive. So there's lots of things to go around. Like Pride Month was a big one, demonstrated a lot of acceptance for people that are from different backgrounds or different orientations. Don't want to paint myself into a corner with this one, but yeah, with Pride Month, it was very accepting, and we tried to make everyone feel comfortable regardless of how they identify and what their orientation is. That's definitely a given. But the guys look after each other and they take care of each other without actually being nice to each other, without actually being pleasant. So it's the same. If I don't get the C-bomb dropped at me in the morning when I come into work, then I think someone's upset with me. I'll have to say, you're all right, because you're not being your usual unpleasant self. So yeah, so that's very similar to the armed forces. Pitfalls that I'd say I've encountered. Okay, loss of visible position and rank. So in the armed forces, when you walk into a room, people can see you got your rank because you wear it on your chest, or formally wear it on your shoulders. Then people understand that you know what you're on about as soon as you walk into the room, whereas here, you need to establish who you are and what you're doing to really get that sort of level of respect. Yeah, so that might be a bit of a kick, especially for people that have reached to the heady heights of warrant officer first class, for example, and been in for an incredibly long career. That will be a bit of a kick that you that might be a bit of a struggle. A loose hierarchical structure in Civvy Street. Okay, if in the armed forces, if someone said to me, do that, if they were higher up than me, I'd say yes. If I had any issues, I'd say, can we have a chat? If someone junior to me said, can you do that? I'd say, like, what? Who are you talking to? But you can't do that really in Civvy Street, because there's such a loose hierarchical structure that people get easily offended when you use expletives to explain why you don't want to do something. Despite being incredibly supportive, I mean, VGC have been fantastic with me. I'm a single dad half the time, and I've had things happen. And VGC have been massively supportive. They're exceptional. I'd say best company I've worked for. But in Civvy Street, if you spend all your money on payday, you don't get fed. You don't get a roof over your head. Whereas in the armed forces, you still got the roof over your head. You still got somewhere you can go and eat. So yeah, and there's a lot more support in the armed forces. But yeah, loss of nickname. That's another big one. I didn't think it would hit me, but I had an alter ego. My name's Ryan Reese. So in the armed forces, I was Reese. When I was on tour, I was Reese. When I went home, I was Ryan. When I was sat at home with my mum and dad stroking my dog, I was Ryan. So it was my little way of compartmentalizing things. And then yeah, I'm just Ryan all the time now. But a friend of mine, he was a chief petty officer called Soupy Campbell. I'm sure he won't mind me talking about him, but absolute diamond of a bloke, really nice man. Yeah, spot on. But his nickname was Soupy because his surname's Campbell, obviously Campbell Soup. And he's a drone pilot. He was leaving the Navy to become a drone pilot in his own company, and he took a job as a Tesco driver as a stopgap in between tasks. So yeah, he left the Navy as Soupy, the chief petty officer that everyone loved and smiled at and respected because he's a chief and he's Soupy because he's a legend anyway. And the next day he got a job and he said that he felt like a piece of crap called Neil driving a truck for Tesco. And that loss of nickname really hit him, the fact that he was Neil and he hadn't been called Neil in about 25 years. So that was a bit of a hit as well. My advice to anybody leaving the armed forces: use your military connections. Absolutely use them, abuse them. Yeah, we're here for you. Veterans are here for you. And there's veterans in every facet of every job. You'll find us all over the place. We're absolutely riddled society. Some people are quiet about it. I like to let people know if there's another veteran in the room, I'll speak up and grab them and say, like, what cat badge, and we'll have a chat and compare notes. Yeah, you'd be really hard pushed to find a veteran that won't help another veteran. I was saying to Chris yesterday that I'm willing to help any veterans, regardless of cat badge or length of service. I'm even happy to help like former RAF. And yeah, so yeah, so that's just how we go. That's exactly it. It might be controversial, some people don't agree with it, but I'd say put it on your CV. Okay, don't have your CV look like a career history from your service career. Try and civilianize the jobs that you've done and the tasks that you've carried out. Okay, try not to use abbreviations and try not to make it too military. However, make sure to the casual observer that they can identify within a few minutes that there's some kind of military service there. I've gone out before on purpose to employ someone who's ex-service, and I've had a CV in front of me and I've said, well, what's this? You've been working on vehicles, off-road vehicles, that looks interesting. Go into that. And now, yeah, I was working on Land Rovers, working at Limpston or whatever. Yeah, okay, so that sounds a bit strange, because it's usually closed to the Royal Marines. Oh yeah, I was in motor transport section of in the Royal Marines, and what? So you're a Royal Marines Commando. Get it on there. Being in the armed forces shows a level of resilience, a level of dedication. You got the teamwork, you got loyalty, trustworthy, all those things that are attributed to us by civilians and ourselves, that you really need to wave a flag. One of my other issues that I had was I don't have any other protected characteristics other than being ex-service. And don't be under any illusion, most companies have a quota that they want to fill, or they want to employ people from various demographics. And part of the social impact policy of a lot of companies is to employ people from all different backgrounds and heritages, but also to employ people who served a prison sentence, for example, and also former armed forces personnel. So wave that flag, I say. Obviously, don't be too corpist or too jack about it, but make sure it's apparent on your CV. And yeah, absolutely lean on veterans. And I think that's all I've got to say for myself. So yeah, good luck, guys.
That was fun. That was fantastic. Thank you very much. Listen, thank you to both of you. If anybody does have a question, then just please raise their hand or join us. They're more than welcome. I'll kick off with a few. Listen, thank you to both of you. That really was excellent. Right, Chris, you kicked us off today. So we'll start with you. You said at the beginning there that NEBOSH General converted you. Did you just not realise the depth of the discipline? Is that what you meant by that comment?
Yeah, I mean, health and safety's got this persona of being, I'm obviously not going to say it, but that, person wearing the helmet and carrying a clipboard and stopping works. And ultimately it's finding that boundary of being that approachable manager where, you can improve the process and manage that change. But yeah, the opportunities within health and safety, there isn't any limit. There's many things you can go into. Environmental, you can go into fire, you can go into construction, you can go into Formula One, you could go into there's an array of things. Every activity needs health and safety, and by law there's got to be obviously somebody employed or a competent person to be able to deliver that. And as soon as I identified that actually I could walk in this job role as a health and safety advisor in 10-20 years time, walk out, well, I don't even know, to be honest. It boggles me and it excites me. So yeah, I didn't know initially the vast range, and if I'm honest, I still don't fully know the full capacity of it. So it's I'm intrigued myself, even sat here now with a full-time job.
Okay, brilliant. And you said that NEBOSH Construction and CSCS cards, is that the sum total of the entry requirements, just for those listening?
Yes, I mean, there is other courses, SMSTS, which is the management, and then there's SSSTS, which is the supervisors. And yeah, they're handy to have, but certainly as a minimal requirement, that NEBOSH General and then your CSCS is a minimum for getting out on site once completing their inductions and everything else that comes with joining a company.
Okay, and you referenced, and thank you for your very kind comments as well, but you mentioned RAF Cosford, which is the Insight Day. Do you remember those conversations with the employers? How nerve-wracking was it? Were they better than they thought you would be, just for somebody that's about to go into that space?
Well, to be honest with you, I actually had 2 CVs. So it was a double tap for me. I was obviously looking for jobs, looking for networking. Networking's massive. LinkedIn, massive, really, really good tool. I was walking around getting names, cards, then finding them on LinkedIn and then stalking them that way, because again, you get to hear of job opportunities. Well, one of the people that was there as a health safety manager is sat right next to you. He's there. I spoke to him and again identified that military connection, and again LinkedIn stalked him and connected. And again, if an opportunity was to come up and it was advertised, and again it was nerve-wracking, but then at the same time, we're good at talking, we're good at approaching people, we're good at being confident and selling ourselves. And I think that's what gave me the upper hand when I spoke to the director here. So I think those soft skills take over a little bit, and we're able to project ourselves and approach people. So don't be afraid to identify who you are, where you're at, and what you need to do to fill in that gap, because it shows a lot, certainly to the right person.
And would you say that it verged on being enjoyable almost? Or is that pushing it?
Yeah, looking back, do you know what? Yeah, it was. I'm not going to say it was an easy transition, but it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And yeah, very, very enjoyable, because you get to meet people. And even now, I didn't think for 1 minute that I'd be working, Ryan would be one of the subcontractors or one of the teams at work and come and visits on sites. I joined up back in 2000 with a colleague of mine who, again, works on one of the SB3, one of the subbies that we have out on one of our sites, or all our sites. He's the senior health and safety advisor for that company as well, so I see him quite frequently and I work quite close with him. So again, it's that good connection. But yeah, it was really enjoyable just to get out there and, like Ryan said, make connections with different trades, different backgrounds, different cap badges. And yeah, you do get identified quite quickly by the CVs, if you like. I can't say too much because I'm one now, but you never lose that click. So yeah, it's fantastic. It's great.
And just on that, yeah, you're CV as well now, Ryan. And just on that, Chris, you mentioned Peter Rigby, who truly is incredible. So how important is it to have that champion in the beginning? Do you feel you need somebody that's pro-military, or just in those first few months, is everybody on board anyway, just out of respect for the armed forces?
I think it can be a mixed bag, and you don't know until you chuck yourself in the deep end and actually just put yourself in front of them people. Yeah, Peter, he wants to build his empire. He wants to build his team, of which I think I'd be exactly the same as most people on this call, if not everyone, because if you're the director, you can't oversee everything. So he needs his team to be able to do things how he wants them to be done, if that makes sense, and to keep people safe and keep people out of prison, because there's a legal requirement. So yeah, I think I was very lucky to be put in front of Peter, but then at the same time, I'm sure there's many other directors and managers out there that are similar minded, most of which ex-forces, Ryan being one. If someone was to approach him with the confidence, I'm sure, that I did, and pose themselves and sell themselves, you'd be hard pressed to not get some form of support or guidance, which could result in a job.
Okay, and Ryan, we've already established it's all your fault that Chris is here, so you would obviously at RAF Cross for flying the flag.
Yes.
So you said at the beginning that, having been Royal Navy for 14 years, I think health and safety was probably a plan Z, if it was even an identified plan. You mentioned getting into carpentry. Yes. Was that a love of woodwork, or was that you just didn't think you would be able to go into a management role?
No, I love. I was a bit of a hobby DIYist, and I enjoy making stuff out of wood. And when you go on a construction site, at the end of the day, the brickies are covered in crap. The plasterers are filthy, whereas the chippy goes right pub. So I was planning to go to Sweden anyway, and there's lots of wood in Sweden. So, but yeah, that was my plan, was to go and be a chippy. But I used my enhanced learning credits to do the level 2 carpentry. But yeah, life wasn't going to let me be a chippy. I ended up getting back with people that I served with in the armed forces. The first 2 jobs I had after leaving the service was directly related to people that I served with.
Okay, no, that's amazing. So I mean, this carpentry thing, I mean, that's a retirement plan. So we certainly don't want you leaving the role you're doing. So you stay put. So just on the role that you're doing at the moment, then you said, or you introduced yourself as HSQE. So that's quality and environmental that sits in your title. Yes. How relevant is that? Does that feature? Do those 2 elements feature in your day job?
So HSQE is more. I do more safety, not enforcement per se, but more safety observing. But I'm also aware of quality and environment. So it's up to me to, when we go to site, for example, I'll look at how things are stored and how the work's been done. And if I see things that aren't being done correctly, then I'll report that back. But it's mostly the health and safety element is 90% of my workload. I'm environmentally aware, so I can see where things should be done correctly on site and what should be done, what should be carried out. For example, newt fencing is one of the banes of our life, because you can't, if a great-crested newt starts nesting somewhere, you need to, if it's after October, you can't move it until mid-March. So you have to close that part of the site until, so yeah, just checking things are in place and things are as they should be, liaising with the environmental team, because they sometimes get a bit of an ignoring. They absolutely love it if you engage with them. Honestly, it's about 90% health and safety and 10% quality and environment.
So just on that then, if anybody's looking to apply for a role, any health and safety role or with VGC, not to be deterred by the environmental and quality aspect within the title.
Yes.
If they've got a passion for health and safety, go for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Okay. I've in fact, my first HSQE role, I said, can I do an environmental course? And the guy said, no, because I think you're CV building. So I'm not going to, because you're going to work for somebody else. So that was it. So yeah. So HSQE is just a title they bang onto someone who's health and safety sometimes because it looks good on your signature block. But no, there are aspects within VGC where I am quality and environment as well.
Okay, and how much does health feature?
Health, yes, quite a significant actually. I do face fit testing for dust masks. We make sure people are looked after. I'm also a mental health first aider. I'm a massive advocate for men's mental health. Not because I'm sexist, but because it's a massive area where we're exposed. We're losing 2 construction workers a day because, not from the military background generally, but mental health is a big issue for men. So I do mental health awareness. So that's quite a big thing that I'm a champion for. But we do health as well. So but you don't have to know a lot about it. It's part of the health and safety. Okay,
no, that's good to know. And you mentioned to use your military connections when you were going through your resettlement. Do you still feel that the route is via ex-military or military programs? I'm just thinking about those individuals that are maybe a bit more regional, that don't stay in major cities where there's big military programs.
Yeah, definitely. If you can't get to do these virtual things, just get support from people like BuildForce. Absolutely. Yeah, BuildForce are leading the charge, aren't you? But they're a fantastic organisation. But absolutely, lean on military connections. Get in touch. Anything armed forces jobs, anything hashtags. I think Chris is the same. Anything health and safety or armed forces jobs or veterans or any armed forces links, because there's so many of us. We're saying we're a civvy. I'll never be a civvy. I'll always be a veteran. I'll always be an ex-serviceman. Never be a civvy. Not ever. No, I was a civvy. That changed.
So just to add to that as well, I connected that much with different people, but I actually stumbled, and I was just thinking, then I'm going on LinkedIn to see if I can remember his name, and it's going to bug me. And he was a Scottish gentleman and ex-army, did 30 odd years, and he's actually the president of IOSH. And I was like, oh God, here we go. Oh, hello. I got talking to him, and it was him that actually pointed me in the direction of right, go and speak to this company to do your level 6, drop my name in it, and they gave me 50% off, as well as obviously using my GRT, which I believe is 560 odd pound, and a few other bits, and long story short, SLC, and it cost me 70 quid, as in out of my pocket, to do my SLC, to do my level 6 diploma, just by reaching out to, like Ryan said, a complete stranger, ex-military veterans. We all stick together, and we understand the importance of it. And he basically steered me into, come speak to this company because they'll do you a deal, and they squared me right away. So it's extremely important, just to echo what Ryan was saying.
You mentioned the CV as well there, Ryan, and you said that you love seeing somebody's military experience on that, and we absolutely reiterate that. Wear it with pride. It's the reason that our employers want to engage with you, because you're ex-military. But you were spot on when you said it needs to be legible for us industry lawyers to be able to interpret it. So that's a key point there. For anybody that's saying, "Oh, I've just paid a couple of £100 for somebody to write my CV and they don't agree," what would you say to that? Because there's a lot of opinions about CVs.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But I consider your CV is like life itself. You've only got to justify yourself to yourself. So if you want to present yourself in a certain way, then do so. I mean, my CV has been very well received. So what I've done is, because I've had a couple of jobs since leaving, I've got a couple of relevant jobs, recent jobs, with all the patter from what I've achieved, what I've done, and then at the end of that, I've got my qualifications laid down. Then I've got at the end of my career, I've got career history and then military career history, and all I've got is 3 Commando Brigade, 846 Naval Air Squadron, 848, and then go through the squadrons and the ships that I served on. So it's obvious of what I've done and where I've been. I've been about a bit and experienced some things. If the person wants to know more, they can Google it. But it's clear that I've been a few places, and it's not overwhelming. They're not expecting Clint Eastwood to walk in, what's his name, Gunny Ridgway coming in, being an old warhorse. Someone's going to come in who's personable, but just put it in so it's clear. And in clear language that people can understand.
Okay, brilliant. A couple of questions have come in. Hybrid working, so that's a big theme at the moment. So can I ask both of you, how often are you on site, and is that typical for a health and safety role? I'll start with you, Chris.
So I manage my time. So basically, there's meetings galore, which I'm sure you can imagine. Personally, as a tier 1 principal contractor, I've got to review RAMs, so forth and so on. So there can be a lot of office-based activities, but then I've obviously got a job outside, going out, and again, that's down to myself to manage it. And I'll put my cards on the table. I tend to look out the window to decide what I'm doing. So for example, it's absolutely raining now, it's smashing it down, so I will probably be spending most of my day in the office. Hybrid, you can get opportunities where, if you are doing that office-based activity, and you're in the immediate area, should an incident happen, because obviously investigations need to be conducted, yes, you can find opportunities where you could potentially work from your digs, because certain jobs do provide monies for getting accommodation and things like that, and your home if you're lucky enough to get a job in the area that you live.
Okay, and to you, Ryan?
Yes, hybrid working, absolutely. I live in Stratford-upon-Avon, but then the HS2, which takes up a lot of my time, runs from Lichfield to Aylesbury, across BBV joint venture and the EKFB joint venture. And my office is in Solihull, where I am at the moment. But if I need to go somewhere for midday, for example, that's the other way, I'm not forced into the office. Home working is it's not even discouraged. They prefer it if I went into the office and showed my face, because there's people here that want to speak to me, and it's easier for someone to grab me for 5 minutes than to phone me or whatever. But generally, I manage my own time. Like I said earlier on, I'm a single dad half the time, so every other week is a struggle for me to be on site, before 8:30, 9 o'clock-ish, because I need to drop my kids off at breakfast club at 8 o'clock. And I love being a hands-on dad, absolutely adore it. It's only going to be for a few years, isn't it? Because they're only small for a little while. So yeah, every other week I've got my two bouncing boys. But my boss Richard, like I said, is absolutely a gentleman, makes allowances. Because I deliver my job, I do what I say I'm going to do. I'm permitted to manage my own time. So when I have to be on site for toolbox talks at 7:30, then I'll make sure I structure them on a week when I don't have my children, or I'll get my incredibly helpful mother to come over and look after the boys. But yeah, I do work from home sometimes. But like I said, it's so changeable. The job's so changeable. I couldn't say that this week I'm going to work from home 2 days, be in the office for a day, because literally I can have my week planned out and it will change last minute.
Yeah,
but,
no, you get
hybrid working is, it's so normal nowadays. And you're trusted. My mission statement is start work when you have to, finish work as soon as you can, and do your job. That's it. Don't work too many hours and do your job.
Right, you're trusted, which is the theme there, and that's good to hear. A question to both of you: do both your organisations offer work placements for service leavers?
Yep. So it's actually quite rife with BBV, certainly on Subblock 2A, because as you know, Peter Rigby's very keen to get obviously like-minded people into his team. We've got one coming up fairly soon. So basically there's about 3 or 4 ex-serving. We've taken kind of like ownership of it. He gets the names in, and then we always get together and get people in. We've had people turn up for a walk around to go and have a look in one team, and we've just taken them around all the different teams, and they've walked out of here with 1 or 2, maybe even 3 job offers or an interview or anything. So again, it's that whole put yourself out there.
Good. And Ryan, within your organisation?
We don't currently do work placements, as far as I'm aware, not within health and safety, but we are signed up to the military covenant. So we have that provision. But yeah, BBV, they've got a lot more capacity and more health and safety roles. So unfortunately, Chris is better placed to offer that.
But you do offer kind of mentoring chats, don't you? If somebody wanted to come and have a coffee with you, you'd offer up your time.
Yes, as I said earlier, lean on veterans. If a civvy mate said to me, "I've got a friend who's leaving the army. Can you have a chat with him?" I'd say, "Give him my number." Yeah, absolutely, love to meet up and have a chat. Give them my number. Him, her, or they, don't care what background they're from, what cat badge. Absolutely love to have a chat. Encouraging people into construction now is undermanned, and I would fall over myself to help them out. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay, so get in touch with Caroline and she'll arrange that for you. Just a quick one, Chris, in terms of entry requirements for a work placement. Do you need them to have a safety qual or a CSCS card, or will they be kind of man-marked when they're on placement?
That would have to be agreed through sort of like director level, because I mean, letter of the law says obviously that qualification and the CSCS card, but if you are accompanied by me or whatever, then it would need to be agreed certainly by someone like Peter and the managers itself, just to give us that authority.
Okay, and the question's been raised on salary bands. So could either of you just give a feel? Do you think that there's pay parity? Your rank in the military coming in as a health and safety manager, are you starting on roughly the same?
For advisor, you could be anything from 25 to 35, even up as high as 40. And a health and safety manager, if you're a small company, again, it's massive. You could go from a junior health and safety manager, you could be looking at 35k, generally about 40 if you stick to your guns. But then that can go up to 65. So it really is changeable. So I can't give a definite answer on that as who you're employed by.
But the money's there. And to you, Chris, roughly the same, yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, obviously we have different bands, if you like, similar to the military, you know. So again, I mean, you can go up to, like Ryan said, 40, 45 as an advisor. Then you get the senior advisor where you could go up to included 50, 55, and then managers, like Ryan said, up to 60, maybe 65. But that does include travel, car allowance, fuel, and like I said, subjective to different people. Personally, I get an additional amount to provide me with digs, and because I own my own house, it's tax free, so I don't even need to pay for my accommodation here where I work, and then obviously I travel back at the weekends, so it works for me, but it can work for others as well.
And those benefits are on top of the salary, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So final question to both of you. We'll start with you, Chris. What makes a good health and safety manager?
The soft skills which we have earned over a number of years, and that's being approachable, sensible. The amount of times I keep saying civvies, but you know what I mean. Problem. When really it's this is a problem. This is the reason why. Here's a one or two solutions, and that's how we're built. So it's that fight your own battle, fight the right battle, and that sensible approach.
And to you, thank you for that, Chris. And to you, Ryan.
Yeah, I'd echo that. Any situation we have to approach anybody to discuss something they're doing wrong, be level-headed, be pragmatic, be confident. Like, sorry to bother you, could you talk me through why you're doing it that way, rather than saying you're doing it wrong. Can we just have a chat about what you're doing there? Just making me feel a little bit uncomfortable, and then have a talk about it like that. Being pragmatic, be realistic. They're trying to get a job done, and you're forcing them to do it safely because they're goal focused, whereas you're safety focused. We live in Mordor, don't we? So it's up to us to see the worst in every situation and try and impart that. So yeah, level-headed and pragmatic, and be humble.
Okay, fantastic. Well, listen, thank you to both Chris and Ryan for their incredible contribution today. That was fantastic to both of you, so thank you for that. The transition into a career in health and safety, you are keeping industry at its best, so what a worthwhile career to consider. We've heard from excellent employers today, so credit to Balfour Beatty Vinci and to the VGC group as well. So they're continuing and excellent ambassadors of supporting our armed forces. Remember, you're not alone. We are here to help. Just quickly to close, we are taking a summer break from the events. However, the full BuildForce team are working tirelessly throughout the whole of the summer. We are here non-stop, so keep getting in touch. In terms of events, when we come back on the 7th of September, Vivo Defence will be here talking about what they do and opportunities they're recruiting for. And on the 10th of September, we've got Caroline running the New Forest Marathon. So either be there to cheer her on the day, or sponsor her and the wellbeing programme that she's raising money for. So ensure that you try and take a bit of a break during the summer. Have a wonderful summer period, and thank you again to Chris and Ryan. That was brilliant. Okay, I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
See you later, Chris.
Thank you all.
Take care. Thank you, Angela. Take care.
Thank you.